obviously the production quality here is top notch. Yeah.
We'll never have guests again after this, so
we'll see. I'm sure you guys are going to be great. All right, so we're recording. So for our tens of fans that will maybe click this link and watch, it's me again. With joined with by Croy and Savannah. We've got our first guests ever. We've got Sonny and Sonny's husband, Clough. They own Down Home CrossFit down in Pooler, Georgia. I know them because they are the first affiliate that I ever coached at. So we were just thinking about who we could bring on that would maybe give a different perspective on some stuff. And I figured maybe the East Coast low country perspective might be a little bit different than the Oklahoma perspective on stuff. So I guess I'll kick it over to you, Jake and Sonny, in like as few or as many words as possible. Tell us who you are, how you found CrossFit, and more importantly, how did you guys find each other?
I'm gonna take the few because I think Sonny will take the.
Always.
Yeah, I guess my CrossFit origin story is just I got out of college and was an athlete my whole life, and then I was kind of like, what do I do now? Sign up for some 5Ks, run a marathon here and there, and then CrossFit kind of fell in my lap, and I just kind of fell in love with it, and kind of been hitting it ever since. I just love the competitive aspect of it, and decided that that would be the career move for me. So kind of was in and out of some different gyms, just doing personal training kind of stuff, just kind of getting my feet wet, and then started a gym just with zero experience, nada. Ultimately, it was probably a terrible move at the time. I think I was 25 or so, and I owned it for about a year. Basically made zero money. Brought a guy on to kind of help me, and somehow I convinced him to buy it. A couple $1,000, and then ended up moving down to Georgia. Followed a girl, just kind of chasing something different, and that's where I ended up meeting Sonny. So here we are, and I'll let her continue the story from there.
So me finding CrossFit was probably more traditional with most, like where Jake kind of found it. Like when he says at the beginning, he found it back when it was a website, and they were just like throwing out workouts for the day. So kind of at the start, it was actually recommended for me in college. I had been a collegiate athlete and was kind of looking for something to fill the void of, I'm not working with a team anymore. I'm not working out. Like I went to the rack that was at the college and hated running on a treadmill, but had no love or desire to go into the weight section with all the like crazy meathead guys. Like you can't tell from the video. Maybe I'm like 5 foot, 100 pounds. Like I'm pretty much on the like non-existent side. And then on top of that, right, like I was a little on the depressed and the anxious side. So my mom actually was like, well, maybe you should get with this group because it's got a community and a team atmosphere. So my first push towards CrossFit was actually the community side of it. And so I walked in and never looked back. I had been coaching kids since I was 13, 14 years old. I started as a softball and a pitching coach. And then my story is a little unique because fast pitch had just started in Georgia. Like the first year I played was the first year it was ever down here. So it was cheaper to hire a kid than it was to actually get a professional. So I had been coaching with teams and rec departments since back before I could drive. So I knew I loved coaching. I had always been into it. And then this one introduced me to just some really random books about golf games and coaching strength and conditioning. And I kind of changed my approach from how I dealt with my athletes to more of that CrossFit side. And between that and what I learned, we never looked back. I think we started dating. He was my trainer. It was like,
yeah, I did that thing.
Yeah, he did. He did that. That thing that you always are like, don't do. We did. Like maybe a week in. And that was 12 years ago. We just celebrated 11 years of marriage. So yeah, it's just a little bit about how we found each other and kind of how we found CrossFit. It's 2 for 1. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, Jake, your story sounds, and Sonny too. Your story for finding CrossFit, it sounds kind of similar to yours, right, Savannah? Can you sort of Could you sort of give us the clip notes on yours as well?
Yeah, I was also a collegiate athlete. I played softball at the University of Oklahoma. And after I was done, I was like, all I've ever known was playing sports. So it's like, now what? And my wife and I, we had been working out together and stuff, but it just wasn't the same. And we were looking for that competitive edge. So we walked into a CrossFit gym, and we did at the time, baseline workout was like kind of how you did your introductory section, little meeting. And so we went through a 10-minute workout, and we both were just laying on the floor dying. She cried afterwards. I didn't, but she loved it. She still loves it. So yeah, that's how we found CrossFit too. Never looked back.
Oh, that's awesome.
What about you, Croy?
Yeah, I mean, mine's not too crazy far off. I mean, it's kind of also centered around, sports. I think I was sophomore in high school playing baseball, and one of our new baseball coaches showed up, and he was a CrossFitter and a CrossFit coach. And he started kind of taking over our strength and conditioning, and he took us through multiple workouts. And me and one other friend of mine just absolutely loved it, fell in love with it. And I went and played a year of college baseball. And then whenever I came back, I'd already joined West after I kind of got introduced to it. Left and went and played baseball, came back, and then that's when Savannah asked if I wanted to be a coach. And that was just like the perfect replacement, like you said, to just athletics and competition and all of it. It kind of fell right in my lap. So
That's awesome.
Can I ask you something, Troy?
Of course.
So when you started CrossFit, was your first real experience as being a coach, or were you a member somewhere?
I was a member first. So actually, whenever I probably joined my first CrossFit gym when I was a senior in high school.
Okay.
And I went to a couple different ones here in Oklahoma. And then I discovered West probably, right when I was going into the summer, maybe. After my senior year, I think that's around the time I discovered it. And then obviously I left to go play in college, but I probably did CrossFit for at least, 2.5 years before I actually came back and became a coach. So
yeah, I just find that interesting sometimes, because I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that I've actually never been a member at a box.
Yeah.
When I first started, I was kind of messing around on the website, at a Globo gym. But I've never had the experience of actually being a member at a gym.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's very interesting.
Do you think that limits your perspective on to be able? Does that create some barriers, right? As far as like being a business owner, making decisions that are impacting a membership base. I'm assuming that the membership base is pretty comparable to what it was when I left. You know what I mean? Like, how does that work for you?
I could see how that would make sense, and I think maybe early on it probably did. But I mean, just kind of being in the industry for so long and running so many classes, I'm probably just as well knowing what's going on as they are. But when I first started, I mean, I just kind of knew the tenets of CrossFit, and it's like, this is what people need, this is what they want. But in terms of giving them that whole experience of what's a good class, what's a good week look like, what's just the entirety of the community supposed to be, I was probably a little green.
He still has his moments.
Like you said, I think experience is everything, And I'm sure you've coached thousands and thousands of CrossFit classes by now, so pretty well versed.
I mean, for all you guys, I'm the only one on this right now that's not a gym owner. What made you actually want to like walk the plank and start a gym? What are some like early mistakes that you can look back on and realize that you made? What are some things that maybe you did well? Jake, I'm curious how did that work out for you? So you started your gym solo. You were just like woke up one day and like, I'm going to start a gym. Like, how did that work out? How did that take shape for you?
Well, I think in general, I'm a bit of a risk taker, and I'm a bit of a nomad. I'm okay with kind of jumping around and moving places. So I think I was just at a point in my life where I was like, I just need something new. I need something different. And being that risk taker, but also knowing, I think, in my heart of hearts that, CrossFit is or can be the answer for so many people. I just had so much belief in it that I was like, look, I can start this up and make it work because it is so powerful. Was that a mistake? Possibly. I probably could have used a little bit more just experience. So just the evolution of that has been interesting.
Real quick, are you guys hearing that screeching sound? I hear like a screech in my speaker.
Yes.
I do.
Slightly.
It's not bad, but
Okay.
yeah.
I hear it every once in a while. I don't hear it now.
Okay, yeah, it comes in and out. So what year was this, Jake, for you?
2011.
Okay, so you're still early. Like, I guess you consider yourself like kind of an OG, right? But still, CrossFit had been around for several years. Yeah, Savannah. So like, same question to you. Like, why the hell did you start a gym?
Lily and I were members for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, 4 years or so. And we just spent all of our time at the gym. And we both were financial advisors at the time. And we were just on the path of like being an entrepreneur and stuff like that. And we thought we just love it so much, like we might as well own one. And we didn't have intentions of owning it to where we would be full-time coaches. We had a guy at the time that was going to be more of our head coach figure. And honestly, we opened it with the intentions of never making it into a real business. It was just more of like something that we were passionate about doing. And it was kind of a hobby, and it just kept growing and growing and growing, to the point that I ended up quitting being a financial advisor, moved into the gym to do the gym full time. My wife, Lily, she's still a financial advisor. That's what she does. But yeah, that's with no intentions of making it a real business. It just turned into one. So,
Sonny, how did you get convinced to go with? Was Down Home the second gym that you that for Jake? Was this the second one for you? First one for you, Sonny?
It was the first one. So when we got ready to open this affiliate, I was 22 years old. And we decided to move back home. Down Home is how it's got its name, because my brother had just had his first kid, and we wanted to be closer to family. We wanted to be there to help. We were also, at that point, Jake had really kind of helped start and opened. I mean, at this point, we had been together for a year and a half, and he had been called in to help open a total of 3 different gyms, right? So he kind of took all of his experience in 2011 that didn't go so great, and he helped launch one of the first ones that was down here in the Low Country, and then took a job in Memphis where a guy hired him to kind of come in and revamp the programming and the culture at his gym. And then from there got hired from another group to break off and kind of do the same thing. So it kind of came down to the fact that nobody wanted to hire us together because we were married and we were both full-time coaches and very passionate about what we did. But if one of us took a vacation, 2 of us took a vacation, which at the time I thought was just absolutely stupid. And then now as a business owner, I'm like, I get it. They were so right. They were correct. But I looked at him and I was like, let's open another gym, at which case he told me no, that was not something that he was going to do again. And so I did probably the most successful thing that I do in our marriage, where I just decided to do it myself anyway. So I sat down and started writing a business plan. Nick, you've seen my spelling. It drove my husband nuts. So then he took the document from me, started writing it. And by the time he was done going through it and kind of putting that pen to paper, he was like, okay, fine. I see it. I get it. But like Savannah, on the opposite side, like when we decided to open it, this was going to be it. This was how we were going to make it. This was going to be our business. So we found the biggest facility possible, 6,000 square foot, sit down. Here's the loan, $40,000 equipment order with Rogue, like basically Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. And at the time, that worked out really well for where we lived at, because there was only one other CrossFit gym. There were no boot camps in the areas. There were no personal training places in the area. And so we came in with kind of the gamut of what is HIIT training and health and fitness in one of the fastest growing cities in Georgia. And it worked out really well until it didn't. And then we had to change our business model a few years ago. COVID helped jump that forward, but we'll get to that topic when we get there. Nick, you're screeching again.
Is it me?
Maybe. I think so. Is
It's
it me?
you.
Is it? I have no idea how to fix that.
I don't know either. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Oh, that's crazy. That is the total opposite of us. So we started off super small in a facility that was less than 3,000 square feet. I guess that's not super small. It's smaller than where we're at now. And we had $20,000 of cash, but for us, we were like, cash is king. So between my wife and I, we took out 7 credit cards that were 0% interest for like 18 months, I think. And we had done the math to know like what our bottom line was and how many members we needed to get to in order to break even to pay off the loan. So we had enough money that if we needed to pay off we could pay off the credit cards before it hit that interest. But we just didn't know what that was going to look like. So we were like, we can do it. We're not going to we're going to be able to pay the credit cards. So we did it. We paid everything off in like, I don't know, 9 months or so. So for us, it worked out. I would never, like being with the background of being an advisor, I would never say, yeah, go take out like a shit ton of credit cards and max them out and see where the best.
Yeah.
So, but it worked out great.
Credit cards never get anybody into any trouble.
Never.
Never.
No, not at all. But I think that's one of the beautiful things about CrossFit, right? Is that there is not one path to being an affiliate where like with franchises, like, cause we've looked at various different franchises, we're entrepreneurs at heart. And so many of them are like, well, you need this much money in equity. You need this much money in assets. You need to have, this many people involved and this much, where CrossFit's like, okay, like $3,000 for the name. And like, do you have your level 1 and good luck? You know what I mean? So you hear these stories where people take all these different paths. And I think that's one of the things I've always loved about CrossFit, especially as an entrepreneur, is like, leave me alone. You know what I mean? Like, this is my community. These are my colors. This is my home. And we're kind of raising our community, if you will, in a way that's free from everybody else's influence, especially HQs. So it does allow for us all to kind of find that community drive that fits with so many different individuals. And I do think it allows for a lot of people to find CrossFit and love CrossFit, even though they're totally different and these affiliates are totally different. So that's something I've always loved about CrossFit, is that we can take 7 credit cards or go get a loan, or, what was it? CrossFit San Francisco, did they start in a parking lot? I think that's part of their story. Yeah. So it's beautiful.
It's interesting because you hear, depending on which podcast, if you listen to any podcast on YouTube, there's so many different perspectives as owners. Some owners really want there to be more involvement from HQ on like how, not necessarily like how they do the day to day, but maybe some more support. You hear I've heard some discussions on is there value in some type of of oversight when you consider from HQ's perspective as far as protecting the brand. We've all seen there's several CrossFit gyms that will open up that have the same, they're selling the same product as you, but they're doing it in a much shittier way. You know what I mean? So then now it brings everybody down in the area. Like, is there anything that you wish that CrossFit did more of as an affiliate owner, more support or anything like that? Or are you good with just continuing to run solo?
Interesting, right? How you put it that way. It's so funny because we've actually, because we used to be one of the most expensive affiliates in the area. And then people would always be like, well, what justifies the cost? And, you'd go and you'd launch your pitch and you'd launch, well, this is what we do and this is what we have and these are our amenities. And we'd always end it with, why don't you go try out a couple other gyms and come back and see us? And honestly, the fact that some of those gyms weren't performing at the standard that they needed to honestly helped us out great when it came to our selling point and your price difference, especially when people were getting into it. So I think it does allow for a bit of a competition in the market, right? Which is really nice. When we first got involved with CrossFit, though, I want to say one of the big things with your affiliate fee was the legal team, right? And like that was when everyone was starting all these new brands, right? You had all these boot camp brands and Orange Theories and everything else, and they were all trying to use the same acronyms as CrossFit. And apparently CrossFit's legal team was like really jam up, and they were really trying to help protect what it was that we were paying for. Is that even still a thing? Right? Like, do we even still have access to a legal team as affiliates? Or I don't think we do. That would be something I think would be, I mean,
They do. They've talked about it pretty at length. So Castro spoke about it on a podcast within the last year. They spend a lot of time and money on the protecting the brand. There's a lot of copyright and trademark infringements that people are continuing to try to deal with. But I don't know what a lot means, right? Are they? Yeah. When you mentioned earlier how you guys started and you were it for Pooler. This gym kind of faces the same struggle in a little bit different way. Where we're at in Yukon, Oklahoma, there's a lot of competitors that have opened up over the past 2 years or so. Now it's not as close as you guys. So for Savannah and Croy, where Jake and Sonny's gym at, it's still a smaller town. It's just really it seems like they're just building everything like right up on top of each other. And I mentioned it, I think, on like maybe our first podcast. Their gym, the owner of the commercial facility ended up leasing out like 3 doors down a boot camp facility. You know what I mean? So I was there for that. I was there when Pure Barre opened up, probably a quarter mile away. I think Orange Theory opened up shortly after I left, maybe just a mile south. Yeah. There was an affiliate in between there. You guys dealt with 2 different affiliates in Pooler. You had Fast Pooler, then you had what was that? There was another one. How have you, for both sets of people, Jake and Sonny and Savannah and Croy, like for the members that may hear this, like as business owners, how do you guys navigate that, dealing with competitors that weren't there when you started, that now you're trying to have to compete with a limited market?
Yeah, Savannah, do y'all want to hit it first?
Yeah, for us, we've been around 10 years. We just hit our 10-year anniversary. So we've already seen, and Croy, I think you can attest to this, we've already seen lots of CrossFit gyms in the area come and go. But it's been a different trend in the last few years we still have CrossFit gyms in our area. I don't know that those are a direct competition to us because they're still within a far enough like mile radius from us that there's just enough people where we're at that I don't think that necessarily matters as much as all of the group fitness training stuff now. That's what's, to me, that's the bigger thing. Like you have the F45s, you have the fit camp stuff, you have boot camps, you have all the things and that are throw out super cheap group classes and stuff that it's like, it's for us, I've seen it's hard to even get them in the door with if they don't know the price, that's one thing. But if they come in and they kind of have an idea of what's the price, it's like they don't even entertain us because we're so much higher than those low price boot camps and things like that. That part's been a little bit trickier. I don't know how it was for you guys pre-COVID. I feel like, we just got people left and right kind of banging on the door. And then it was like post-COVID, we had an huge influx of people coming out of hiding from being locked in and stuff. And then after that, it's like we've seen leads die down quite a bit for sure. So I'd love to hear how you guys have handled it.
Yeah, it's kind of some of the same. We started here. There was a handful of CrossFit gyms around, right? But say they were in warehouses. They were smaller. We're here on the main parkway, 6,000 square foot. There's showers. The showers have AC. they're ready to go. And we also opened up a boot camp program at the same time. And I'll tell you right now, the mindset behind the boot camp program was to get all the people that were scared of CrossFit, and then to slowly introduce them to what CrossFit was and that they could do it and everything else. It worked and it didn't work. We got all the people that were scared of CrossFit, and I think maybe a handful of them transferred over to the CrossFit program, and the rest of them always wanted to stay with that program, which was fine until like we also will be 10 years in March. And then next thing you know, there's a burn boot camp right next door. There's an F45. There's an Orange Theory. There's a Pure Bar. I think I counted it once, and we have 10 competitors within a 10-mile radius of where we're at. And yeah, it was a lot. So we did everything, right? We started a cardio pulse program, which mirrored Orange Theory. And same thing, we bought the treadmills, we bought all the equipment, we had the cardio pulse monitors that Wattify did. And then COVID happened. And I'll tell you right now, COVID was terrible and a learning experience for a lot of people. And COVID was the best thing that has ever happened to my gym. Because first and foremost, we had been running a gym for 7 years, working 60 to 80 hours. We got tunnel vision really hardcore to what is our community and what is our problems and what we were trying to do. And so in Georgia, we shut down really for only 22 days, but it was a 22-day break of I'm not going in the gym, and I am not around my community, and I am not around these things day to day that have kept me so blinded's not the right word, but it didn't allow me to look for other solutions and other opportunities. But we really took a step back and we got to look, okay, well, what do we do and what do we specialize in? We specialize in CrossFit. So here's what we're going to do. We sat down and we drafted an email to all of our people and basically told them, like, we are CrossFit and we love CrossFit, and this is why we love CrossFit. There are other people that are doing other things, but we truly believe that what they're doing is they're taking little pieces of the modality out that they think either other people won't like or either that they're not passionate about. We believe CrossFit is the end all be all to fitness because it encompasses everything. It's going to challenge you in all the right ways. It's going to give you the workout that you need. We are CrossFit. This is the flag that we fly. This is what we're going to do it. And then within 24 hours, Glassman opened his mouth and we were in, that whole debacle, which I think, Nick, you have on your talking points later. But we consolidated our programs. We got rid of the boot camp. If it did not serve what our overall community goals were, we kind of cut it out. And then a few years later, we ended up downsizing our space to where we weren't big enough to hold 3 different programs, but we do our CrossFit and we still do personal training because I have a love for one-on-ones. But yeah, that's kind of one of the things that we did is like, what makes us different? We quit trying to compete with everyone else, and what all these affiliates were, not affiliates, but these franchises were bringing to the table. And it's like, what do we do that makes CrossFit? And that's who we are as a community. And we're going to downsize and we're going to focus on the core group of people that make our community so great. And we hope it works, but this is what we believe in. And it was probably one of the best things we ever did.
Yeah. So for some of our members that may listen to this, they may not know who Greg Glassman is, for those that are listening that don't know, he's the founder of CrossFit. He created the CrossFit methodology. One of the things that Jake said early on, as far as when he started at the gym, that was the one up in Urbana or Champaign?
Yeah.
Yeah. You believed in the why. You believed in CrossFit, the methodology, where a lot of us, it sounds like with Sonny and Savannah, Croy, and even myself, I kind of fell in love with the what before I really understood the why first. But getting to the why is really important. A lot of we've got several members that have been doing CrossFit for a long time, and they know what CrossFit is, but I still think there's a little bit of a gap in the why. Like, why do we do what we do? Why did he create CrossFit? It wasn't in an effort to make money. He's been pretty. It's been pretty public, his disdain for he would never hire, for instance, one of his quotes was he would never hire somebody with an MBA. He didn't want somebody with a business mindset. He wanted people that loved fitness and understood the methodology. And inevitably, one of his quotes is, CrossFit is the solution to the world's most vexing problem, which is chronic illness. It's one of the things we skip over sometimes in the level 1 training guide, but it's important. It's one of the things we partnered with a local healthcare. How would you classify Tracy's business? A Reclaim. It's like they're doing some treatment for some folks, but trying to take some people that are sick. They're going to this place to get well, and then we want to bring them to fitness through the gym. But you sort of mentioned it, Glassman. Even though he's very smart, the way that he's able to articulate his thoughts, there's not very many people that can do that. But he's also known for saying some stuff that kind of ruffles people's feathers and rubs them the wrong way. And what Sonny was referring to was he made an Instagram post or something about something I can't remember exactly, but it had something to do with the George Floyd incident and COVID-19. And then that day, CrossFit changed, and honestly, it's probably changed forever. So that day, the popular athletes, some of them turned against CrossFit and demanded his resignation. He ended up selling out for a couple $100 million, which he seems to be doing well now, pursuing what he's doing. But then they also, what was it? Castro became the CEO for like a day. But then when the investment team came in and bought it out, then they fired him. So then it was all within probably about a 6-month time. You had kind of the backbone of the people that really understood the why and why they started this thing were gone. And then CrossFit was kind of now kind of in a weird position where it was being run by investors and boards that really didn't. They were looking at it as an opportunity to profit and weren't really understanding the methodology. With some of those pivotal things that have happened with CrossFit over the past 5 or 6 years, have you guys as affiliate owners or gym owners, do your members even know any of this stuff has happened? When we talk about the thing that happened to CrossFit a few weeks ago, do your members know what happened? Have you guys had to speak on that at all? Or do you think that's going to potentially affect affiliates? And how do you think it'll affect affiliates in the future?
So if I remember back to that day, I remember like maybe 50% of affiliates probably threatened to de-affiliate. Maybe 10% of them actually did. We knew that, again, kind of CrossFit was our thing. And we, as a gym, as a community, I don't think we've ever put like Greg Glassman or the HQ or the games on this pedestal. We've obviously over the years had a few people come in and that's all they're about, right? They're, it's all they talk about. That's all they want to do is just kind of the big names of CrossFit. But I think as an affiliate for us, it's always been like CrossFit is our modality of exercise. This is what we do. And then we let down home and kind of the community of our gym dictate kind of that why. Now, of course, looking back at, the CrossFit Level 1 manual, the first time I read it, I was like, God, this is freaking brilliant. Like the respect for Greg Glassman. And again, you said it perfectly. The way that he can articulate all this stuff, I mean, absolutely genius. So I think that we just kind of let our community kind of do what we do. We don't have a community that's asking us all kinds of questions about some of those different, events. Most of them, again, they're just normal people living normal lives, coming to our gym, loving the programming, loving the community, and not really getting too bogged down in all the other political stuff about it.
Sure. I feel like our gym's super, super similar as far as we don't typically, we're not putting those things on a pedestal. And honestly, I feel like in the past, not that we ever did, but when the CrossFit Games were at their most popular, 2015, 2016, the Froning era or whatever, I feel like that was almost a barrier of entry to some people because they'd see that on ESPN or on TV and then they stroll in or they don't come in because that's what they think we do. Like that's CrossFit in their eyes. And it's like, well, no, that's not what we do. You could train for a very, very, very long time and it'd still be tough to reach that level. So I think we're the exact same way. I think focusing on what we do in the community that we have over at West, because we have an awesome one. I mean, community events, and we run a pretty awesome, co-event with the Open every year called the Hunger Games. And I think focusing on that kind of stuff is much, much, much more valuable than, putting the games and Glassman on a pedestal.
Agreed. 100%. Nick, to kind of talk to your point now, like all the stuff that's happened this year with the games, and like there's no doubt that was horrible and a shock, and like my heart has broke for that family. Like there really aren't words to kind of handle it. But what I can say to your question is I've probably answered more questions about it from non-CrossFitters than I have with CrossFitters, which I have found that to be very interesting. So, yeah, I mean,
that sort of brings to light as standoffish or free CrossFit is with the reins with the affiliate owners. One of the things when we go back to right around the COVID area and Glassman's post, there was a massive shift in how HQ was structured. He was gone. Castro was gone for a while. The media team is gone. So then now the only public relations stuff that people are seeing with CrossFit is confirming what a lot of the uneducated rumors were saying before, and that's CrossFit is dangerous. So then people will conflate what the CrossFit Games, the tragedy that happened at the CrossFit Games, with what you've got going on in your box, and people don't understand they're two separate things, and it's tough. You can try to explain that to people till you're blue in the face, but it's a lengthy conversation to get people to understand the difference between what you guys have going on at Down Home or what we have going on at Complete West is not the sport of CrossFit.
Right.
It's not what we've got going on. For us, I can tell you that what we've really taken a look at over the past several weeks is a lot of like the safety protocols that we had here at the gym. We're working on making sure we're getting all of our coaches retrained on CPR, AED stuff. We've talked. There's a lot continuous discussion on how do we make our gym welcoming to families and their kids, but also having a safe place for the kids to be. That's another liability issue. That we've got to figure out. We got kids that'll run outside the gym while it's the same areas that we'll run for the workouts. But there's just so many risks that it's as a member that it's easy sometimes to overlook that. As a coach, I mean, honestly, it's easy for me to overlook it. I've got no skin in the game here. You know what I mean? I don't have any money invested in this gym. I care about it. But I'm sure this is the same type of stuff that the stuff that keeps Savannah and Croy up at night is probably the same type of stuff that keeps you guys up at night too.
For sure.
yeah, it's always so interesting, especially when you start talking about safety, because I deal with a lot with training our coaches. I deal a lot with making sure that our contracts, our waivers, and everything are kept up with the legality. Typically, maybe it is with like y'all's partnership, but there's like one person in the partnership that's very minded, and then the other person that's like, it's fine, and then there's constantly that conversation of like, it's not, it really isn't. So like we've got a couple different things in place, especially with kids. Like we have a lobby, the desk kind of divides it from the main part of the floor. Kids are not allowed on the floor at all. The coaches have got to keep kids off the floor. It is not my coach's job to babysit. That is not what you're paying them for. So I've told the parents kids have to be there. When we have like our 8:45 is kind of like our mom's group, if you will, especially in the summer. I lock that front door and I will put a note on the door that says there's kids in the lobby. You need to walk around back. Like there are no strangers walking in. No one's delivering the mail. No one's going to like snatch up a child and walk them out. Like we're parents now. So there's a lot of stuff that's more safety minded with me about that kind of gets me. The TV is the best babysitter ever. So we have a TV, the gym pays for Netflix, which is great. Like there's arts and crafts and stuff that's there. And we just kind of had to set some guidelines with our parents. That's like clean up after your kids, especially if there's food or anything on the floor. And then occasionally there's the warning statement that if your kid's taking up space on the floor, I'm going to charge them a membership. So either keep them in the lobby or, $25 a drop-in free. There you go. Let's figure it out. So. Yeah, it fixed it real quick.
I love
that.
I've got more questions, but Savannah and Croy, do you guys have any questions, or I can continue to dive into what I got?
You're welcome to continue. Go for it.
Yeah.
Okay. So the gym you started for both sets here. The gym you started 10 years ago. is not the gym that exists today. The members you started with are either older now or they're gone. You got new faces that have come in. With that, you've got new opinions, new wants and needs. As business owners, like how do you navigate that stuff? Because you started a business with a mission and vision in mind of what you wanted to get out of it. How do you navigate? One, you've got multiple heads at the top here that are having to make decisions. Sometimes those opinions aren't always the same, but then you've also got to deal with you got to navigate member preferences and stuff like that too. How do you guys do that?
So I think we had heard some statistic or something sometime that said, people that work together, like couples that work together, it's basically like they've been together for 7 times as long as someone else. When we first opened our gym, after that first year, it like we've been married for 7 years. And I'm not gonna lie to you, there's certainly some struggles. I mean, we are 2 very different people in a lot of ways, which works to some degree because, we come at things from different angles, but sometimes communication is hard. You'd probably blame me. It's probably true.
It is.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like over the course of time, we've fallen into our roles pretty appropriately. She's got her strong suits, and so I kind of let her be and let her handle that kind of stuff. And then I've got my, somewhat strong suits. And so that's kind of my role. I think we've fallen into those roles. Of course, you're going to get the handful of members over the years that have the biggest complaints or the biggest issues. And honestly, I don't know how, but we've found a way to weed them out.
Yeah.
I think now we are like in such a good place where it's like we have people that trust us, respect us, love us, and we do the same for them. And maybe that's the reason. But man, I can't think of, a time over more so than the last year where it's just like everybody at this gym is like awesome, which has been a blessing. I mean, especially with the fact that we downsized quite a bit. We lost a few people that would have been lower on that totem pole of, all right, well, we're not so disappointed that they're gone. So sure. It's been a fun transition over the last year or so.
What you talked about, Nick, members getting older and stuff like that. Both of us have been open for 10 years. Do you have any members still with you from the day that you guys opened?
A few.
I think I counted it the other day, and we have between like 5 and 7 that have been with us for a full decade. And then we've got like equally as many, if not more, that moved that we would love to get back around the area, but that probably won't happen. But yeah, no, we've for the most part, if they could have stayed, I want to say that most of them did. Which is really, we talk about how great the gym is right now, like in the place it is with its community. Nick, it really mirrors kind of what you guys were in that first year or two when y'all were down here with us. And it's very just community driven. But yeah, we've got about 5 or 7. What about you guys? What is y'all's numbers?
Last time I ran it, we had between 9 and 12.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
Like that.
Yeah.
Our founder members. Have you guys done, with it being 10 years, are you guys doing anything?
I think I'm going to do shirts. I'd love to know what you did. So we'll be 10 years next March. So we've got a few months to go. And I didn't know if maybe we would do like, kind of like because we're the home team, it's kind of what we call it. Maybe like some version of an athletic shirt with like a 10 on the back, or maybe get like, I really love what Pure Barre does, right? They've got like the boards that people sign when they've done like so many classes, maybe having people do that at different stages at years, like your 1-year board, your 5-year board, your 10-year board. So I want to get something done. I think that would be cool. So I'm open to ideas. Like how did you guys handle that?
We are looking to have a celebration. And we kind of have a few special things planned. We haven't done it yet, so I don't want to remember it on the podcast.
Text me. But
I'll definitely share some of the things that we're talking about doing.
Yeah, cool. I'll send you my number in the chat.
Okay.
It's a weird one. It's an 800 number. So like nobody answers when I call. Sometimes that's a blessing. Like, oh, left a voicemail. It's fine. So, but yeah.
Okay. How old is your oldest member?
Oh, how old is our oldest member? Oh, it might kill me. Between 64 and 62. Yeah.
Okay.
64 to 62. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And they're doing classes. They're not personal training. That's like in class.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What about you guys?
Very cool. In the 70s, right?
I'm going to
Cooley?
say, yeah. I think
that's
we have a 70 and up, and same thing. Classes. No
Yep.
classes
And they're
probably 5 days a week. Honestly.
They're your most competitive, and you have a hard time kicking them out, right? Because that's
Oh,
what it is
Oh yeah.
with this one. They're like, you should do mobility and don't put that weight on the bar. And they're like, whatever, I'm fine. I'm like, okay.
Exactly.
Speaking of mobility, do you guys incorporate that into class often? Do you try to speak about it for outside of class? Like, are your members good about mobility?
No. We'll incorporate it, within class. We've tried different things in the past. We've done, ROMWOD and, let's get together on Sunday morning and have coffee and we'll just stretch. Some people take you up on it, but it was never something that was consistent enough to warrant getting up on a Sunday morning and doing, forever. But we'll throw it into warm-ups or, throughout the class. I wouldn't say it's like
I'll do a pop-up yoga every now and again, but it's really hard to keep people consistent with it. It's almost like you need to do like a 2 or 3 week mobility course, have people sign up extra, throw an extra $20 at it, right? And then come and get like maybe some reinforcement and some tools in their tool belt to handle before and after class on their own once they've kind of learned it. But yeah, it's just not what they want to do. And it's always the first thing they want to bring up, right? When they get injured, right? As well, what if we did mobility? It's like, well, if you showed up for it, which you don't, you skip it in the warm up every time, but that's just people being people, right?
I like the idea of like a workshop or a course though, because I think it goes back to, CrossFit and the why behind it, like why we do it versus the what. I mean, the what it's having to sit still for, multiple minutes at a time. And I feel like a lot of people, when they come into the gym, I mean, they're there to move. They're there to move after it and sweat. And so it's hard for them sometimes to force themselves to sit still and, mobilize. But I feel like, so Nick, you can speak to it. Whenever we do it in class, I feel like I always hear people, oh, I wish we did this more often. It's like, oh, I wish we should do this more often. And then we do it more often and they don't do it or they don't show up for it. And it's like, it's just mobility's tough.
I struggle sometimes with it too, because it's almost like everybody needs to be stronger. Everybody needs more capacity, or at least could use more capacity, but not everybody needs to be more mobile.
Sure.
There are plenty of people that have plenty of mobility. And so if you spend, 20 minutes a day doing mobility, unless you're giving them some alternative, something or other, then they may get to the point where it's like, look, I'm here to, like you said, sweat and move and whatnot. So I've always struggled with that, but knowing that it is, a pivotal thing to the warm up. So
I think I get those questions like the I don't understand why and ... I think I get those less because I will nerd out on people hard on the why behind stuff. Why are we only doing strength stuff today? Oh, let me talk to you about what intensity means and how does CrossFit define intensity and power and all these things. We've tried to. So I've taken over programming here at this gym like about a month ago, I've taken some days. So like on random Thursdays, it'll just be pure mobility, and some of the people love it. They're coming in with their yoga mats. They're wanting to put soft music on, turn the lights down,
taking their shoes off.
We got some that it's just not something they enjoy. To be honest, it's not something I enjoy. I'm not a warmer upper. I'm not a stretcher. I come in, I get to it, and I get out. You know what I mean?
I'm injured right now.
But I program that. I'll put that stuff in because I know that there's some of the people that really need it. Now if we could get them to really want it or like really enjoy it, things would be a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned it a little bit, Sonny, but like, how do you guys focus on building your bench, your staff? You guys have, I've seen how the coaching, the coaches were for several years ago at Down Home. I think I have an idea of like who's kind of coaching now. But do you guys have a focus on that? How do you one, select your coach, select coaches? How do you develop your coaches? Do you guys have personal and professional expectations of coaches, stuff like that?
Yeah, so that's kind of my area. Yes and no. This year has been like a really big revamp for me with coaches, and it's one of the reasons that we did kind of downsize our program. Finding coaches for me is really hard because we're in such a high turnover area between like the military bases and the schools, and Gulfstream brings them in for internships and sends them out. Like we're in such a high turnover area. I think at one point we did the math. We've had 55 coaches in 10 years. We have had a shit ton of coaches, and some of them are really great.
I think it was 35. But.
No, it was in the 50s. It was
a lot.
Either way, it's a lot.
Every time I fired Jake, I counted that number in there. Yeah, so it was, but it's really hard. So I have done everything from written a hiring protocol where it was something CrossFit-y, right? Like at 21 hours of you shadowing, 15 hours of me shadowing you, 9 hours of you coaching by yourself, and let me see what you did. And all of it, none of it worked. So I really go off of my gut with coaches, and and I think you guys will know as owners and as coaches too, like we got into this because we are passionate about people. We are passionate about making people better, whether it's their physical health, their mental health, like them needing to be a part of a community. And then on top of that, like I am a really good coach. I am technical. I love the lifting side of it. Like I believe in the power of change. I believe in the power of human performance and what that allows people to bust through the barriers within their own life. So I can get really persnickety with coaches. So that might also be why we've had 55 of them in 10 years, is because some of it didn't last. But honestly, one of the best things I started doing with our coaching is I quit looking at people's certifications because knowledge is not good people skills. And I started really kind of trying to find people that one had the capacity to be a coach, right? Like, so Nick, for example, we just hired Mariella. She's retired. She's been in the community for 10 years. She talks to people with love and passion, and she coaches from the standpoint of I've been there and I've been new. You cannot teach people how to do that. You can't teach people how to people. You either have the skill and the heart for people if you don't. Like I can sit down and I can teach you exercise science. I can break out the CrossFit level 1. I can teach you how to go through and learn the points of performance. Sometimes I can develop a coach's eye. Sometimes I can't, right? So that's one of those factors that's kind of hit or miss. But at this point, I try to hire and find people that have the capacity to be there, and above all, are good people that love people. Like you have no business being on the floor of a CrossFit gym if you do not love people. Like I have it in our coaches code, Nick, it's the same one that you have, but it's like, I will not talk down to anybody that walks in this facility because they are walking in with a heart to change, and someone that has the heart to change their mind can change their world, right? Like we see people from all walks of life, all things that they're struggling with. Like people come to CrossFit for so many reasons. Like if you are not on that floor to develop people mentally and physically, you don't belong there. And I can't tell you how many coaches try to get involved because they're great athletes. I'm a great athlete. I love CrossFit. I want to be in the gym 40 hours a day working on my own athletics. I'm going to coach. It's like I tell people right off the bat, like one of the worst things you're ever going to do for your athletics is become a coach. So you better love it, and you better love what you're about to bring to other people, because this is not about you being in the gym 10 hours to get muscle ups. That's not it. And so, yeah, it's hard finding and developing good coaches. But when we really started focusing on the heart of the coach over the knowledge, knowing that we could train that if they had the time and capacity for it, things became so much easier for me, at least on the floor, knowing who I was trusting my people with, right? So I don't know what you guys have run into, but like that's been the best for us. That's it, I'm done.
Savannah,
we've recently had to revamp. We have not been through that many coaches. I think we've been through
Still been a lot, but not that many.
maybe 20,
Yeah.
right? Like, would you
Yeah.
say?
Yeah. I think it's a
20?
decent amount, but not in the 50s.
Yeah. But we recently just went through where we had kind of a full staff that was of seasoned coaches, and then it was like they all kind of hit that where they're still members at the gym. They're awesome. They're wonderful people, and they were great for our community, but they just went into a different season of life. They're having kids, they changed jobs, like, you know, lots of things changed, and it just happened to be where it was just kind of a big wave of them. That was difficult to go in to get fresh people to fill the spots, and you like the time parameter of stuff where people's I think too, like sometimes members' expectations are that you just go out and hire a new coach. Like there's no like, why can't we get quality coaches like right off the bat? Like they just don't have patience, and these people care. Like you said, they have a heart, like they care about the community. They want to be there. They want to do a good job. It takes so much time and energy and work. CrossFit to me is 10 times more difficult to coach than any sport that you could play, like softball, golf, football, anything like that, because you all have, there's just specifics in there. And a lot of times you have a hitting coach and you have a fielding coach, or you have a quarterback coach and you have a receivers coach. But in the CrossFit world, you're managing not only the personalities, like you're managing adults. So they're coming to the table with like all kinds of things. Like it's not just kids who are going out to play that sport and that's their job. Like you don't get the privilege of having something so simple. So then on top of that, you're dealing with all these plethora of movements, because CrossFit is jack of all trades and master of none. So it's like, but you still throw in specific things in there like Olympic lifts that do have all of these moving parts to it. And it's just like, I think people sometimes forget how big of a job it is being a CrossFit coach. Like you said, because you're there too to provide an experience and help change people's lives. And it's just, it encompasses so much more than just looking at someone and you're like, oh yeah, you need to push your knees out, or, you know, you need to make sure you brace your core. It's so much more than that. It takes time. It takes time to develop that.
Oh yeah.
Become a solid coach.
And experience too. I think some of our, our best coaches currently and in the past are ones that just have done it for so long and have been able to build up their Q banks or whatever. And they're just able to, it's just second nature for them. But, those coaches as well were probably our best coaches as far as just presence and attitude goes, making people feel good when they come in. Like you said, it's different. I mean, you can't teach that kind of stuff, making them feel relatable and like they've been there before. And I think that's something that all of our coaches are super, super good about. We even talked just on Saturday about presence and attitude and how it's one of, if not the most important things, when it comes to a coach, because, you can have all the certifications and qualifications as whatever as you want, but if you don't make them feel good and welcome, then they're not going to come back to your classes. So I think that's huge. I do.
You said that you talked with all of them on Saturday. Let me ask y'all this. We have a wide range of people and jobs and everything else. Do you guys have like a protocol, or at least something you like to do when it comes to coaches meetings and getting everybody to sit down and see each other face to face to maybe talk about new members? Group text has become one of the best things in the world, but do you try to get your people to sit down on a certain frequency or a regular basis or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. And I misspoke. It was Friday that we met, but then that made me think of that, because that's one of the harder parts, is just getting everybody on the same schedule, because most of, if not all of our coaches, they do have full-time jobs, outside of just coaching CrossFit. So getting them all on the same schedule can sometimes be tough, but we try to do it. I mean, I'd say at least, once a month with our coaches, especially in the past, 4 to 5 months, whenever we were testing out different programming and things like that, being able to talk to them and them provide us feedback and us provide them feedback. I mean, I feel like that has made a massive difference in everything, just getting everybody on the same page and communicating. We do have a group meet and, a Facebook message, but I mean, even then, you never know someone's intentions or their true feelings communicating through text. So I feel like we've had tons of success, especially the past few months, just meeting face to face and being able to share thoughts and feedback. And we typically go into it with an agenda and kind of an idea of, 8 to 10 things of, what we're going to be discussing and talking about. And our coaches have always been great about open discussion, and we're not just sitting there preaching to them like it's a big group discussion. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's something that we could probably do a lot better with. We kind of talked about doing our revamp this year with our coaches, and we've gone from like, okay, well, we have just a ton of people, right, in that coaching rotation, because you never know when you're going to need them, to kind of sitting down and like, okay, well, let's maybe consolidate this number down to who can consistently be here a lot more, just because I feel like it's better for the members. So I do feel like we're coming up on a time where I can throw a group meeting out there and maybe have, 5 of 8 come in and show up and be there with it. So I think that's probably going to be on the horizon for us to look back into. Nick, we did that when you guys were here, like a good bit. We would do it and talk, mobilities and protocols and things like that. And it's so funny what seasons you get into and what they allow for. But I'm excited for that, because I do feel like we've got a team now that, you want to hold the pen? Okay. I'm fidgeting. They could really work with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps out a ton. I feel like we're good about, putting it around the time where a lot of our coaches will be at the gym, Saturday mornings. We typically kind of our set meeting time has been Saturdays at 7 a.m. Because we have 7 a.m. meeting, and then we have an 8:30 and a 9:30 CrossFit class. We recently added competitors at 7 a.m. So we're going to have to kind of readjust and figure some things out, but that's helped out a ton, just doing it because our coaches are great about all doing classes, and Saturdays are by far our most popular and packed days, and almost all of our coaches typically will show up
Nice.
on Saturdays. So that helps out a ton, kind of being able to put it around when people will be there.
Yeah, I think the meetings are usually generally are you get more buy-in when the people that are attending the meetings feel like they're actually getting something out of it. We've all sat in meetings at work before where you're like, man, couldn't this have just been sent in an email? So we're trying to, I guess, be more deliberate with like our coaches meetings, creating like an annual training plan now, where we'll discuss, one of 6 focus areas on a given month. And then maybe the next month we'll go into like some execution of those things. And then like at the end of the annual training plan would inevitably kind of culminate in like a coach's evaluation or whatever you want to call it. That way we can sort of like minimize kind of the variation from what one coach provides to the next. So that's kind of where we're where this gym is at right now is, just some of those things. Sometimes those meetings, it can just turn into everybody's got an opinion on stuff, and it can go off the rails real quick. And I remember you guys being really good about that. Sonny talking about, I remember one specifically, there was like an hour where you talked about conducting a sale when a new member comes to the door, or how to different ways to speak to the differences in how maybe a man would speak to a woman member versus a man speaking to a man, and the same thing, a woman coach speaking to a male member, and any other things. And those are things that, I mean, that this is what, 7-8 years later that I still remember those things. So hopefully you guys are still doing those things. I don't want to keep you guys on here very much longer, but I do want to ask all of you guys one more question before we end it. We'll start with Croy, since he's the first one. My eyes are always locked on Croy. Since you've been a business owner or a gym owner, what's one thing you've done really well, and what's one thing you've done horribly?
Very well and horribly.
And if somebody already has theirs, they can jump in to give him more time to think.
Well, I feel like I know it might take a minute to really think about what I've done well, which sounds bad, but I don't know. I just don't focus on that kind of stuff. But I feel like what I've done not great is just prioritizing my own health at sometimes, whether it's making sure I'm doing classes each week or making sure I'm getting enough sleep at night. Sometimes I do get lost in the weeds of just focusing on the people in the gym and class times and coaching that I forget sometimes that, hey, like it's just as important to take care of my own body and physical and mental well-being, because how are they going to trust me if I'm not? If I'm out there and I'm looking like I've got 4 hours of sleep and I've, gained 30 pounds in the last 4 months, it's like, how are they going to trust me to practice what I'm preaching if I'm not? But I feel like I am getting a lot better about that. Past few months, I feel like I've been able to prioritize my health and my well-being a lot more. As far as what I've done well, I mean, I feel like it kind of goes into the business side of things, but also just a coach side of things. I feel like I'm good about making people feel welcome and truly, trying to give them the best hour of their day, making sure whoever walks in the door, addressing them by name. Hey, how are you? Bob, Joe, whatever. How's your day going? And just making people feel welcome. I feel like it's something that I've been able to focus on and become pretty good about. That's it. Is that acceptable, Nick?
Who's next? Yeah, that's great.
I'll go. Doing well. I think, I don't know. I think programming, been doing it basically since I started doing CrossFit. I've never actually followed someone else's programming, so I always know what the workout is tomorrow, which again, another thing that I've thought about. It's like, well, that's kind of, I don't get to experience what that's like. That's not true. I gave it up for like 2 weeks to some other staff members, and
He couldn't handle it.
No, it wasn't me that couldn't handle it. I was getting too much feedback from people being like, "What's going on?" So it's just, I mean, it's certainly a passion. I love doing it.
He's good at it.
Can I pause real quick here for those that you guys have never seen Jake's programming? I still remember it.
It's amazing.
It's down to like the nanosecond of every class is planned out, which may sort of, for some of the members that may have maybe made it this far in this video, may explain why I lead classes the way that I do. But it's also kind of weird, unorthodox time frames. Like it may be like an 8 minute and eight rounds for time. You might have 17 seconds of work with like 4 seconds of rest. It just weird stuff, but it just somehow works.
You're making it sound weirder than it is.
It's not.
Weird, man.
Exactly what it is.
It's pretty standard. And then doing poorly. I'll tell you what. I am not confrontational. I hate it. And the thing is, Sunny's really good at it, so I let her do it. But that's probably not always fair.
It's not.
That's my number 2 for me, with the confrontation. So I feel good.
I'm not awesome at. Are you done? Go ahead, Sunny.
No, I'll go last. You go for it. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah. Croy, you're awesome at welcoming people. You're saying that, and I'm like, you are really good at that.
Well, thanks.
I want to make sure I said that. I'm also not awesome with confrontation. I feel like I've definitely gotten a lot better with that. My health has also been one of those things that's kind of been on the back burner as well. I guess not health as much as prioritizing my workouts. Man, it's just been lots of things. I can definitely, not with my intention that I want to be that way, but just kind of more some health stuff. Before that, I was pregnant, had a baby. So it's just like for a while there, it's just I haven't been in the place that I want to be with working out. So I'm hoping that I'm hitting a curve here pretty soon where we're on the up and up again. Things that I do well with the gym, especially recently, I feel like I've really embraced change. And like whether it's just with the gym, like with the finances or like members or whatever it is, like just knowing for a while, I feel like I was really bad about comparing things. Like the gym's not the same as it was, in year 2 or year 3. And I've let go a lot of that. And I'm like, it's not the same people. It's not the same times. It's not the same culture. And so really paying attention to what the current needs and desires are of our membership base in the gym and really embracing that. It's been so much better. So much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. And that's hard too, right? Because you like fell in love with one thing and now you've had to evolve, and yeah, sometimes that can be hard. Things that I've done really well or recently done really well with is I procrastinate certain things a lot better than I used to. Jake said I'm better with confrontation, so people like to come to me for things. And so it was like, well, I felt like this needs to change. I feel like this needs to change. And I think I used to value a lot of individual opinions or individual critiques. And maybe they weren't exactly in line with our vision, or maybe it was something that wasn't really an issue. And so I think as a leader within the business side, like really just procrastinating some of those things and allowing myself to sit in it, right? And be like, is it really an issue? Or was it something that just went wrong with one class someday last week that someone felt like they needed to bring up? Like, is it really an issue or is it not? And I think it's allowed the gym to stay a lot more consistent because I'm not getting ready to throw policies at one-time issues, right? Where it's allowed me to address things more individually than like as a whole. And I think that's been really good. Things that I'm not very good at, we can just go ahead and say prioritizing health is across the board with everybody. Yeah, I mean, I need to do a lot better job of being in class. A lot of times I find myself either on the floor coaching or on the floor helping other coaches. And then I'll end up doing my own workout, which is completely separate from the programming, which for a long time when I was doing a lot of personal training made sense because I was trying out a lot of stuff for clients and things like that. But you lose your place in the community as an athlete when you can't relate to them on what the workout is or how sore you feel because of the programming or anything like that. So I have really tried to make a push lately to be back on the floor, especially in the afternoon classes, and to kind of be back at the like grassroots of what CrossFit is. And that's the WOD, right? That's the Metcon at the end of the day. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, if you guys don't have any other comments or questions, I think
we're all just dying to know what you're bad at.
Yeah. What are you bad at, Nick?
Oh, I mean, the list is endless. I think the one of the bigger ones is maybe sometimes my communication is too concise, and can sometimes rub people the wrong way. It comes across as aggressive sometimes. So regardless of whether that's my intention or not, how it lands is what matters. So that's probably the biggest thing. I'm 100% aware of it. When I become aware of it, I try to change it in the moment, but it's just become kind of ingrained in who I am. So I think that's probably the thing that if I had a little lamp and somebody and the genie would pop out, I would want to find a way to merge my communication style with Croy, and I feel like it would be amazing. That's
vice versa. That's why I feel like we work though, because we're a good balance. Because I am way too nice, and I care a lot about feelings, and a lot of times we'll bounce around. Shit that needs to get done, it doesn't get done because I do care so much about feelings. Not that Nick doesn't, but he's much better about getting to the point. Hey, if we address it now, we're not going to have to stress and worry about it for the next 9 months or however long it is.
Yeah, it's definitely learned too. This isn't when I talk about the way that I am, this isn't the way that I always was. It's just kind of the nature of my job in the military and what I've had to do operationally, and just sort of how I had to communicate. It's just become who I am. Now I would love to find a way to find a good midway point there. I went to breakfast with some of the members yesterday, and I was talking to them, and I was like, to me, I kind of envision it like killing a deer. Like I could kill a deer with just slapping it as many times as just if it would succumb to blunt force trauma. I'd rather take a firearm and just shoot it in the head. And so like that's kind of how my communication style is. I just want to get to the point. I don't want to sugarcoat stuff and just slap you to death with nice things. But maybe if I could find a nice midway point, it would be better for people that sometimes take issue with the way that I communicate.
Yeah.
Has he ever responded to an email that you guys have sent and sent it back marked up to be grammatically correct in red ink? Because that's what he did the first time I ever emailed him. And I was like, fine, you can coach. That's great.
Hilarious.
Yep. That definitely happened. No, I haven't done that for him. I used to have we had a secretary that lived in another town. So I actually was a recruiter in the town that Jake opened up his first gym back in the early 2000s. But my office administrator was in Bloomington, which is like an hour away. And she sent me some paperwork one time, and she stapled it. She stapled it diagonally in the corner. So I took the staple out, sent it to her back with a Post-it that said, "From now on, staple it north south so I can open it like a book." She was very upset. It was meant to be a joke, but she took it pretty personally.
I just hired you. I was like, okay,
You're hired.
Yeah,
this guy,
it's all in good fun.
It's all good.
Man, I appreciate you guys getting on here. I know you guys have a lot of stuff to do. Sonny, you're like a business mogul, a pooler. You've got how many businesses now? It seems like you guys are doing really well. It's always good to see you guys. Savannah and Croy, thanks for doing another one of these episodes. You know what I mean?
Of course. Thank you for setting this up. This has been one of my favorite ones so far, for sure. It was awesome meeting you both.
Yeah, it was awesome meeting you guys. This was fun.
Yeah. Very nice to meet you guys.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
See you guys.
Bye, Nick. Bye, Sav.
Bye.
Here we still going?